So what do we have? What do we have? Let's do Devblog time. World of Warships development blog. New ships 0.11.3 closed testing. Italian aircraft carrier Aquila and American cruiser San Diego will enter the game for closed testing in the upcoming session. Italian aircraft carrier Aquila tier 8. You know what the community asked for? More carriers. That's been surely the overwhelming need in the game right now. More carriers. Now we have Italian carriers. Will they be as impressive as Italian battleships? Only time will tell. An aircraft carrier laid down for the Italian Navy during World War II, intended to be the first unit of a multi-ship class. Work on the ship was cancelled with the nation's surrender in 1943. Aquila has access to 2 types of squadrons: attack, aircraft and torpedo bombers. Oh, no bombers at all. At least no more skip bombers. Skip bombers are the worst. Like, they nerf rocket planes, and then they add skip bombers that do the job of rocket planes, except hit even harder. Like, hello? They literally, everyone's like, DDs are being smashed by rockets, and they're like, okay, well, we'll take them away. And then like a month later, they add skip bombers that do the same thing to destroyers. It's like, you're pretending to listen, but you're not really listening, are you? Aquila has access to 2 types of squadrons. The planes have low HP and relatively high speed. See, I've learned to take the planes have low HP with a huge grain of salt after the Soviet CVs. Because the Soviet CVs were supposed to have vulnerable squadrons, and then they forgot to mention that they attack outside of AA range continually, so they actually never lose planes anyway. And they cycle them so fast, you never even notice that they're supposed to have low HP. When has Wargaming ever listened? Technically, they solved the issue with rockets. That is true. That is true. On your top right, there's a great triangle. I don't know what you're talking about. No, there's not. Maybe you're hallucinating. Let's see. Thank you, Aja. Each squadron of attack aircraft has a large number of planes divided into 2 attacking flights and is equipped with accurate armor-piercing rockets. Let me turn down the music just a tiny bit. There we go. While the rockets deal low damage individually, a well-executed strike can deal good damage to a target. Armor-piercing rockets. Oh no. Is this gonna be like Manfred rockets all over again? Or the German... What was that German one? Citadel rockets, yeah. Aquila's aerial torpedoes enjoy a high base damage. Interesting. American cruiser San Diego, tier 8. This thing should have monstrous AA. Should. Because it's literally an evolution of the Atlanta class. And Atlanta, man, I've just been reading about the battles over at Guadalcanal, which the Atlanta classes took part in. And the level of AA these ships can pump out is completely ridiculous. And this is supposed to be an advanced version of the Atlanta. So, ideally the AA value should be completely ridiculous. But we know Wargaming hates AA these days. They hate it. So I can only imagine what kind of tragic levels we're gonna have in. In Azur Lane, she's a beast in AA. It's somewhat sad where I'm pretty sure these days Azur Lane is more historically accurate than World of Warships, which is like literally the game that put titties on ships is probably more accurate than this game these days. It's questionable. An Atlanta class light cruiser with a main battery made up of dual-purpose guns. During the ship's 1943-1944 refit, its AA armament was reinforced with 40mm Bofors autocannons. Yeah, it's literally, it's the next step in Atlanta AA. San Diego is similar in some ways to the light cruiser Austin. Oh no! It has unlimited charges of the main battery reload booster consumable, and it equips the hydroacoustic search and defensive AA consumables in 2 different slots. Furthermore, the ship has effective AA and access to sap shells instead of AP. San Diego has low HP, good concealment, and 2 quadruple torpedo launchers. So this is tier 8 Austin. Huh. Interesting. AA is pure cosmetics, falls under art department these days. True. Let's see. Aquila. 51.1, plating 90 millimeters. Does it have deck armor? That's the question though. Like, the only relevant armor for CVs is deck armor. Because if you can't hit it from range, that's what's important. Thank you, Mr. One Penguin. And thank you, Rick. Second armament, 135. Weird value. Maximum HE shell. Okay, it does have HE secondaries. AA defense. Junk. Wow, this AA is junk actually. This is kind of surprisingly terrible AA for a carrier. Usually they give carriers quite good AA because they don't like carriers sniping each other. But this thing has horrendously poor AA. 3.7 km range with 190. This is tragic. This thing is going to be smashed by Pabidas? Yeah, I got the idea that this thing is going to be ridiculously easy to snipe. And I mean, it's going to be so easy to hover planes next to it as well and keep it perma-spotted. Because what is it going to do about it? Nothing. The carriers are there to defend it. Does it have some sort of special fighter? It doesn't say anything about special fighter. If it doesn't have a special fighter, it's going to struggle hard. Interesting. Damage control fighter. Here's the attack aircraft. Thank you for the music chat. Attack aircraft. Hit points 1030, cruising speed 192 knots. That's quite fast. 5 planes, aircraft per squadron 10, aircraft restoration time 58. So you restore a plane every minute. Detectable change number of aircraft 24. Sheesh, that's a lot of ones. Rockets in payload 12. That's a lot of rockets, isn't it? Wait, if it's 5 aircraft per squadron... No, sorry, size of attacking flight is 5, and rockets in payload is 12. That's per plane. So that's 60 rockets? That's 60 rockets. I mean, the maximum damage is low, but it's still 60 rockets. That's a lot of rockets. Holy shit. Jeez, that is a lot of rockets. This thing will never run out of planes like the Gaga? Yeah, that's what I'm looking at, the restoration times and the amount of aircraft. I don't think so either. So it has two 60 rocket strikes. Interesting. Torpedo bombers, hit points 1050, cruising speed 169 knots. That's 2 attacking flight 2 aircraft, so 4 times it can strike. And have 26 planes on deck. Jesus, that's a lot. Torpedoes in payload 1. So it only drops 2 torpedoes at a time. The torpedo damage is high, but the torpedo speed is terrible. The torpedo speed is terrible, but on the other hand, the arming distance is incredibly low. 400 meters, that's nothing. That's point blank. That's point blank rockets. Thank you, Bad Radio. And Black Death. That's kind of point blank rockets is dropping. Oh, sorry, point blank torpedoes, sorry, it's dropping. But, I mean, the health pool might be so low that you might actually be able to do something about those. I don't know. We'll see how it works. We'll see. Thank you, Cranber. All stats are listed. We'll see how this thing works. It seems strange. 8 aircraft? Yeah, aircraft per squadron is 8. But size of attacking flight is 2. So it attacks... it drops 2 at a time. They are super slow though. 30 knots is very slow. You're gonna have to drop broadside or nose in targets. I mean, you're gonna be able to drop point blank though, but angling away from these will give you a lot of tools against them. The problem is, of course, once again, they're forcing you to angle. These torpedoes are fundamentally forcing you to angle because the damage is very high and they're going to drop point blank on the broadside, so you can't just sit there and eat all the torps, so that's going to end up being quite a lot of damage. So once again, the core issue of the carrier, this thing fulfills it. It forces a crossfire. It creates a crossfire wherever it goes. So okay, San Diego, 27.9k health at tier 8. That's pretty poor. 60mm plating, 8x 227, firing range 16. That's okay. The range is pretty good for a light cruiser. Shell damage 1.8, 21mm. Okay, so really poor HE. Fire 5% fire chest. That's not very good either. Sap is okay. Reload time 8.5 seconds. Reload time 8.5 seconds. Wait. What? Doesn't Cleep. Wait, hold on. .5 seconds. That puts it here. Except with no pen and very light shells. You got to remember these are 127mm guns, so the shell velocity is hilariously slow. It's 792, so it's gonna be slow ass shells, basically Atlanta arcs, except with an 8.5 second reload with no pen on the HE. So SAP is gonna be, yikes. That's a pretty brutal reload. So it's gonna be Austin all over again. It's gonna be only useful during its reload gimmick, and the rest of the time, it's got less DPM than a Kutuzov, except it can't land the shells. It doesn't start the fires. It doesn't pen. It doesn't do a whole lot of things here. Like 762 meters. It gives it. That means it has the slowest shells of all tier 8 cruisers. 177k HE DPM. Thank you. So 700, it's got the slowest HE shells of all. The drag coefficient is going to be absurd because the shells are so light. It's going to be the lightest shells, like even lighter than this. So the drag is going to be absurd, and the shells are just going to be slow as hell. Shit, that's going to be brutal, I think. And what did you say the DPM was? 177k. That's okay. I mean, it's not really. It's Ochakov, but Ochakov has a lot of utility. Ochakov at least has radar. I mean, Ochakov is a junk ship. Let's be honest. Ochakov is garbage, but at least it has radar. Belfast has smoke radar heal, I think. So, whew, that's rough. 2x4 torps though, so one per side with 4. Let's actually look where they're located. Oh, calm down. They're located here, so classic central torps. 3 equal setup. Wait, never mind. The torp range is 4.5. Okay, never mind. So no, torpedo utility is incredibly limited. Incredibly limited. It's literally YOLO torpedoes. That's it. It's YOLO torpedoes. Nothing else. Yikes. AA? Short range is terrible. Mid range is even worse. Long range is very unimpressive. It relies entirely on its flak. All its damage is in the flak. For some reason, Wargaming absolutely hates 40mm Bofors, which is baffling because 40mm Bofors was some of the most effective AA in the war, but for some reason Wargaming just gives 40mm Bofors the worst stats in the world. Like, all this Bofors combined, and all this Bofors is giving it no continuous damage at all, which doesn't make any sense at all. This is trash. It's entirely flak reliant. And there's a lot of planes that just fly above or below flak. Like torpedoes going in for a strike tend to fly under flak. Bombers going for a drop tend to fly above flak. And honestly, a captain that has hands flies around flak. So it's going to entirely rely on this. No. So the only gimmick, the turn speed is okay, 32.5 isn't that special. Rudder shift is nice, turning circle is very nice, like it handles well. Surface detect is low, 11.8. What do we end up with? 11.8 times 0.9 times, let's see, 0. We end up with 9.3 cam conceal. That's pretty good. But considering the guns, like, wait, you don't have any radar either. You just have Hydra defensive and main battery reload booster. So it really is Austin all over again. It doesn't bring any utility. It doesn't bring any threat. It has its gimmick for the occasional burst. The gimmick is going to be what kind of reload booster is it? 50% or 75%? Is it at least a 75% reload boost, or is it just 50? Don't know yet. No heal either. That's gonna make it so bad at trading. 27.9k health cruiser with no smoke or heal. Light cruiser with no smoke or heal. Holy... Like, imagine a carrier just striking this guy once for like 15k, 10k. That's a third or half your health gone. And there's no way you can recover it. San Diego has more flak than Atlanta and Worcester. Yeah, that's good. I mean, having more flak, 7, but let's not, like... You gotta remember that, yeah, this thing has 6 flak, that thing gets 7, but the damage output, continuous damage values on the Worcester, the continuous medium damage is, well, you can't really see it, but it's 434. I'm not sure if you can see it. You can kind of see it here now. The continuous damage output on mid-range is 434. So even if you don't eat the flak with defensive AA active and reinforced sector, Worcester gets fair bit of modifiers on that, so that it ends up ticking for like 600-700 per second, which is good. Like, the base value is the most important thing on a light cruiser, because defensive AA buffs that value and reinforced sector also buffs that value. So the base value is the most important thing, because every bonus on top is percentage based. The higher the base, the larger the percentage bonus that you gain. So when the base value on the ship is 91 on the mid-range, which is the most effective generally, who cares if you buff that by 70% or 80%? It's still gonna be shit. It's still gonna be tickle. So, yikes. Why would I ever go for this thing instead of mines, Bayard, like these super powerful cruisers? Why would I ever go for this thing? I don't see any value. I don't see any value in this thing. Like, the problem is that they're trying to market an AA cruiser, but then they don't actually give it AA. So, like, hello? San Diego was built AA support cruiser. That's literally... That's a whole gimmick between Juno and Atlanta and San Diego and all of these. They were built as escort cruisers that provide AA support. And Wargaming removes the AA from them and then tries to sell them. And it's like, who wants this? Who would want to do this? It's tragic. It's absolutely tragic. San Diego's... Oh, what is this? Little white mouse? What does she have to say? Oh, well, looks like she she agrees with what I just said. San Diego's initial stats are a flaming turd. San Diego is set up to fail. While all of her performance stats are still malleable, the base premise is horribly flawed. It dissatisfies me given that I was pushing hard for San Diego for a number of years while being a community contributor. San Diego's initial offering is a worse Atlanta. AP DPM, HE DPM bit. Wow, it loses this hard to the Atlanta? Jesus. Well, that's tragic. Wait, if you pop reload booster, you still don't reach Atlanta DPM. Jesus. That's terrible. Holy. The 75% reload boost is necessary to get San Diego's overall rate of fire up to Atlanta levels almost. Jesus. Yeah, there's going to be no practical way to make San Diego's Rainbow Rocks usable beyond 40 km unless your target is AFK. That's exactly what I was saying about the shell velocity. The slowest shell velocity at tier 8 combined with the very light shells means that the air drag is going to be horrendous. Yeah. Atlanta starts with an 11 km surface detection, which can be reduced to 9.59. Yeah, that's barely an upgrade. But it doesn't get heal or anything like... Shush. Her raw damage output is on par with Izumo's. Her AA damage output. Jesus, activate defensive AA and it's about the equivalent of Lepantos. This is Wargaming trying to make a light AA cruiser. Like, the problem is, once again, this is an AA cruiser that they don't want to give AA to. Because they hate AA. We've long since established that Wargaming hates counterplay against carriers. Carriers are supposed to be allowed to farm the entire team for free. So now they try to add an AA cruiser to the game, but they really don't want to give it AA. So you end up with this AA cruiser that needs defensive AA to reach Italian battleship levels of AA. Like, it's mind-boggling. And then there's people out there who go like, what do you mean Wargaming has a special place for CVs in their heart? I don't understand what you mean at all. Like, it doesn't exist, man. Is it time for this meme again? Wargaming removing it. Yeah, I mean it's accurate. It's accurate. Like this is an AA cruiser, AA cruiser designed by a CV man. That's what it is. This is literally an AA cruiser designed by a CV man. It's just tragic, honestly tragic. Like, tell me you hate AA without telling me you hate AA. San Diego. There you go. Perfect example of making an AA cruiser without any actual AA. It's... what a tragedy. What an absolute tragedy, man. Holy shit. 18 battle stars, literally only known for its AA. Right? Like... look at this. Look, like... How can you do a ship this dirty? Look. USS San Diego, CL-53. San Diego was one of the most decorated US ships of World War II, being awarded 18 battle stars, and was the first major Allied warship to enter Tokyo Bay. Armed with 16 5-inch 38 cal dual-purpose anti-aircraft guns and 16 Bofors 40mm AA guns, the Atlanta-class cruisers had one of the heaviest anti-aircraft broadsides of any warship in World War II. And this is what they give us. For some reason, Wargaming just hates these guns. Like, for some reason they hate a gun that was ridiculously successful. Also, 16 Bofors AA guns? Wait, hold on. How many more did they get? They didn't have 16, did it? No way it had 16. Right? Wait, hold on. How many did it give to it? 10? It got 16 after torpedoes were removed. So they're giving us an earlier version of it as well. But even then, the values don't make any sense. Like, the values don't make any sense. We've seen this on a Montana. Montana also is absolutely packed with AA guns. Like, Montana literally has 80 Bofors here, and another 40 Oerlikons here, another 20 here. Like, this thing is absolutely packed with AA, and Wargaming is like, yeah, the best I can do is 440 continuous damage. Sorry, that's the max. Like, but then for some reason, for example, Holland has just a few of them and has more continuous damage. They just pull numbers out of their ass. That's the problem. But man, they really did San Diego dirty. They really did San Diego dirty. Okay, what else do they have? What else do they have? Changes to aircraft detection mechanics. Okay. Is it only minimap spotting? We're testing a new concept for the detection of ships by aircraft. Last time we touched on the topics of ship detection by aircraft, we shared the radio concept. Today we're ready to share details about another new mechanic. Please note that this test is a proof of concept. If successful, the mechanic will be polished and we will share more detailed information about how they work. In this new concept, airplane squadrons being directly controlled by a player have a limited cone... Wait, airplanes are being directly controlled by a player. So this doesn't actually affect fighters then. That's already a big issue because fighters provide a ton of spotting. So are they touching the fighters separately? This is already a problem because they're not touching on fighter. Fighter spotting is a huge issue. Invisible fighters patrolling somewhere constantly spotting you that you can't even see. That's a huge issue. They're not even touching on that. Directly controlled by a player have a limited cone of view within which enemy ships can be spotted and info about their position shared with the entire team. So spotting like now. Enemy ships outside this field of view will not be visible unless their AA is firing at the squadron. The field of view can be expanded to cover the full 360 degrees around the squadron with a special consumable. Okay, that's dumb as hell already. This is already dumb. What is this? No, we don't need this. Ships' base detectability range by air is now equal to their detectability range by sea, but all other modifiers affected as before. However, please... This is dumb as shit. This is the dumbest thing Who comes up with this? Ships' base detectability range is now equal to their detectability range by sea. This is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Do they even play this game? What? Are you telling me destroyers like Shima is gonna have a 5.6 km air conceal? What? Ships' base detectability range by air is now equal to their detectability range by sea. That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. That means DDs are gonna have double, triple their current air conceal. So, especially, we just talked about how broken skip bombers are. A skip bomber going in now is gonna spot the DD at 6 kilometers and just start lining up his strike. This is so... Do they play the game? What? The only ones actually benefiting from this are gonna be however planes can only detect ships at distance closer than 10 km. The only ones who benefit from this is gonna be battleships because their air detection is already worse than 10 kilometers. But battleships don't really care about the plane spotting the same way. They're not the ship that gets screwed by it. They are the least affected by plane spotting. Whereas everyone else, the light cruisers, the destroyers, all of them are going to be completely screwed by this. What? The new mechanics will allow for increased interaction with aircraft and game. Ships will be able to make more meaningful attempts to avoid detection through active maneuvering and manually disabling AA defenses. What do you mean? A plane can just snake like this and spot. And it's gonna spot much further away, everything. Shit, it can just pop the consumable as well, apparently. This entire consumable, to begin with, is a junk idea. But this entire design is brain dead. What? Do they actually think that you can actively maneuver against planes? planes are roughly 6 to 7 times faster, minimum 5 times faster than surface, like, vehicles, surface ships. How do you outmaneuver something that is 5 times faster, turns faster, and can do so without any counter? And if you shoot at it, he instantly spots you as well, so shooting at the plane isn't an option either. What? Why is it so hard for this team to just enable minimap spotting? The carrier can see the planes, the teammates can just see them, can see the ships, the teammates can just see the ships on the minimap. Shit, you can even make it so that if the, that's basically it. No, you don't really need anything else. That's it. Shit, that's stupid. What was this radio comms? This was the old one. Any enemies detected by planes will be displayed for the whole team on the minimap. However, only allies are within a certain radius of the squadron that is detecting enemy ship will see the actual model of the ship. Yeah, I mean, this is just minimap spotting. With extra twists for some reason, but all we need is minimap spotting. Then the whole thing of carriers being able to create crossfires wherever they want isn't that big of an issue, because you no longer have to choose between, do I turn into the planes and give broadside to the entire enemy team that is now seeing me because of the planes, or do I angle against the enemy team and eat a ton of shit from the carrier? Like that, you no longer have to make that horrendous choice, which isn't really a choice. It's like, shit, do I eat dog shit or do I eat horse shit? Like, I wonder what I'm in the mood for today. And usually you choose to eat dog shit because fuck the carrier. You don't want him to get any damage. You prefer to be dev struck by the enemy team. But this is stupid. This is a sign of someone who doesn't play the game, trying to come up with some fancy pants ideas. This is just brain dead. This is just brain dead. Let's see. This is all. Okay. What's Reddit's take on this fantastic thing? Changes to aircraft detection mechanics. Well, it's got 0 upvotes. That's a good start. Holy shit! What a dumbass idea. Increased detection ranges by air will not work. Yep. They didn't touch upon the detected by invisible aircraft, which is a huge issue, and the fact that many planes outspot and outstealth surface ships is such a big issue, because it limits any sort of counterplay. Like Kaga planes, Kaga torpedo bombers, they're spotted, or is it Chukaka torpedo planes? They're spotted at something like sub 6 kilometers, so they can literally fly around and spot you, and you can't even see them. Jesus, is this like some last strike by Sub-Octavian? You know, like when Gandalf throws the Balrog off the bridge and then he uses the whip to pull Gandalf with him? Is this like that, what we're seeing here? This is what it feels like. This is a like live reenactment of that. Jesus. Why would anyone play cruisers? Exactly! What? This is like, this is, who comes up with this? Like, I swear they could have talked to basically any player, even with a win rate, let's say above 55%, and that player would have gone, dude, this is a terrible idea. But once again, this is like the complete disconnect between, this is a complete disconnect between what the players want and Wargaming's artistic vision. This is a joke, right? This is the dumbest shit I've read in a while. Like, dude, just talk to your players. You still have a CC program, kinda, but you got some actually really good players in there. Like actual Unicums and Super Unicums are still around, and they would be happy to give you ideas on things to do and things that are really fucking stupid. And this entire spotting rework falls into that jar of really fucking stupid. Jesus. What are they doing? How are they? I feel like every day they become more disconnected from what the players want and how the game plays and what they're aiming for. We see it with their continually pushing this whole submarine thing. We see it with the spamming these CVs. We see it with the Soviet carriers. Like, they're constantly moving further away from what the players want and their artistic vision. And someone like needs to show up and be like, hey, dumbass! The players! Why don't you listen to them? But they don't seem to understand. And they posted a new Devblog 20 minutes ago. Oh boy. What is it now? Changes to test chips and submarines. Oh, speak of the devil, man. Oh, no. Okay, oh boy. Speak of the devil. Holy shit. For real. Speak of the devil, man. Okay, they need to tweak the submarines every week. At what point are they going to understand that making submarines work in World of Warships is about as likely as making carriers work in World of Warships? Like, it doesn't fit an arcade surface combat type of game. You could possibly fit it into escort missions, convoy missions, all sorts of operations. Like, I'm not saying they can't be in the game. There's plenty of opportunities for them to be in the game. But in arcade random battles, you can't make it work. I mean, we can see it on the carriers. Wargaming has been tweaking carriers since they first introduced them 6 years ago. It's been over 3 years since the carrier rework, and they're still tweaking it. Why? Because it's an impossibility to balance. Aircraft carriers ended surface combat. I mean, if anything, what happened to the Yamato should be a prime example of what happens when the strongest surface ship runs into carriers. It's a slaughter. How the hell are you supposed to make that work in a game? Like, hello? 3 years? When was the carrier rework? CV rework. Wow. It was 2018. Actually, they started working on it in August, I think, already. Yeah, 2018. They started working on it. The CV rework. 3 years, more than 3 years soon. Katsumoto, thank you for tier 2, 64 months. That's a long time. And Slasher, thank you for 6. February 2019 it came live. It's been 3 years, like, since it was live, but they were working on it a lot before that as well. And still, it's... what a waste of resources. That's really it. Torpedo bombers, nerfed. Nerfed, nerfed. Bombers, arming threshold bomber reduced. Does it have AP bombs? They become more effective now then. Thank you, Birkinator. Tactical bomber increased. I did the engine cooling. Okay, so they're faster now. Maya nerfed, unsurprising. Maya seemed kind of insane. Pretty big nerf, 10% DPM, 10% damage output, 10% DPM, so a big nerf. Atlantico keeps getting nerfed. Change the exhaust smoke consumable. Okay, 3 charges, 90 second cooldown, 25. Torpedo reload increased. Guns buffed. Didn't they just change it the other way? Well, this is buffed, this is nerfed. Power consumable nerfed. Nerfed. Nerfed? Buffed? Buffed. Okay, they're going all over the place. This is hard to take a stand on because I haven't played them. And I haven't really seen any content about them, so I don't know how they play. I mean, I'm glad to see that they're tweaking them actively. Hopefully we won't have... and hopefully this time they're not being balanced around some perk that will be removed. Did I Italian battleships? Submarines. Maximum flooding damage increased from 25 to 33% of total HP. Okay. Big dive capacity reduction. That's good. Because it's so boring to chase these things. Die capacity recharge rate reduced. Okay. So they just nerfed their die capacity. That's good, honestly. The less time I have to spend hunting these things, the better. At this point, I'm resigned to the fact that Wargaming are gonna squeeze submarines into our game, despite how much worse it makes the game, because the servers can't handle upgrading the player numbers from 12 to 15, and they're insisting on adding it to random battles instead of putting it in something like convoys, where it would make sense. So they're gonna come and it's gonna suck, but at this point, anything they do to make them less playable, the better. Hopefully they'll be so unplayable no one will play them, but that's not gonna happen because it's gonna be popularity-based balancing, just like carriers, which means if there's not enough people playing, we're gonna see buffs. Not because they are fun to play, but because they'll make them broken. Italian DD stats have been wandering all over the place. Yeah, honestly, I'm reminded of the German destroyers. Those German destroyers, like the Elbing line, when they were doing it, they had no idea what they were doing with it. The stats would go this, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until they finally decided on what they wanted for it, and they completely revamped it. What's this? Oh, there it is. My meme is already a picture. that didn't take long. Holy shit. That did not take long. They work fast. That they do. That they do.